Okay, so yesterday's CONCACAF Nations League final was so goddamn fun. That was so stupid. It was so Mexico USA with like how violent it was and how just aggressive it was and how many mistakes there was, and it was just so fun. And that's what really matters. It was fun for a trophy that doesn't really matter. It only matters because the players made it matter because they played like it mattered. Uh but like just real quick, I'm not gonna do the fucking racist thing that like a lot of shitty pundits want to do, which is like all Mexicans are evil because some Mexicans wanted to throw beer or whatever. Uh, First of all, I'm Mexican, at least by birth, so I'm not gonna do that because I'm not a self-hating shithead. But two, it's really stupid to make that commentary when the game was in Denver. What percentage of those Mexicans do you think are not already American citizens? But whatever. Unless for some reason you don't think they don't count as American, which would be really weird. Anyways, the game was a lot of fun. It started with this nonsense from Mark McKenzie. Jesus Corona, Tegatito, he's a monster with like his skill and just, precision. Like, that's a great shot. But Mark really fucked us. Not great from him. Either way, though, the game was incredibly fun because the U.S. team has like an all-time high of talent, right? Like there's dudes for Barcelona, Juventus, playing for who else is on the team? Zach Steffen, who plays for Man City, right? John Brooks has been playing in the Bundesliga forever, and he's just a good player. Pulisic, obviously for Chelsea, helping them win the Champions League. Like there's like not just good talent, like there's extremely high talent like everywhere. Tyler Adams, who didn't play much, he came on I think in extra time, who's a monster and playing for RB Leipzig in Germany. Like it's without a doubt. Sorry, I keep looking over here because I have like my little notes here, so I make sure I stay on topic. Because I don't shut the fuck up if I don't have like something to like keep me like in line. Uh, but yeah, this is like one of the most talented like American soccer teams we've had like in a long time. I don't know how good they'll be, but just in terms of talent, like it's extremely high. I know it's hard to judge because I'm just going based off dudes playing for certain clubs, but I don't think that's nothing, right? The dudes are playing not just in good leagues, they're playing on the best teams in good leagues. Like that says a lot about where we are. Oh, Tim Weah, right? Timothy Weah, who plays for Lille, who just won Ligue 1, the French league. He's I think if you look at his minutes, like I'm not gonna pretend like I watched a bunch of Ligue 1, but he's been mostly like a reserve, but still he's like been a role player on a team that just won the French league, the first division of the French league. That's pretty spectacular. Like the amount of talent is absurd. Uh, I'm just gonna let these highlights play for a little bit until like the end of the game. That's all. The video is like 10 minutes, 11 minutes. This is like a CBS their highlight package, but it's only like 3 minutes of actual gameplay. At this point, like it becomes like recap after like the fifth minute. Uh, Dude, it was just so much fun. Like Mexico have a lot of talent too, right? They have Chucky Lozano or Irving Lozano, who plays for Napoli, who's just like a demon with speed and like talent and skill. Uh, by the way, Weston Mckinney, that's gonna pop up later. He wins the header here that leads to the USA goal, which is pretty spectacular. Like how much of a beast he is in the air, and he plays, you know. And I know they didn't win the Serie A this year, Juventus, but like I think talent-wise, you could argue they're still the most talented team. And also the team that won league Serie A, Inter Milan, are gonna have to sell a bunch of players because they're in major debt. So he might, if he stays at Juventus, he might be part of a Serie A winning team next year. But yeah, the Irving Lozano, Diego Lainez, Tegatito Corona, like the talent they have outside is Mexico is just scary. Like all those dudes are like super scary in one on ones. Zach Steffen getting hurt obviously sucked. I'm a Manchester City fan, but like, I mean, he's a backup for the team. If we're being honest, like he's not better than the leader, the goalie of Manchester City, Ederson, but he's still like the leader for this team, and that hurts. Yeah, Diego Lainez, he's a beast in space. I don't know. Let me fast forward a little to like Diego Lainez, great goal, one on one. So here comes again what I was talking about. Weston McKinney, his like, I think he's like 6 feet, 6 feet one, but look at how high he jumps on this goal. Like he gets some air. He absolutely gets some air. Let me show you. Let me see if I can pause it. Like yo, look at the look at the vertical there. Let's look it up real quick. How tall is tall is probably not. How high is a soccer crossbar? I think it's like 9 feet, right? 2.4 meters, 8 feet. Okay. So he's got his head like 8 feet above the ground easily. Finishes that because he's a monster. I'm just going to keep calling people monsters. So let's move on to extra time. This is where Pulisic gets the penalty. The ref goes to VAR, reviews it. He initially said it's not a penalty, and then he does the first down penalty call. Love that. Love to see it. Pulisic finishes it. They celebrate in the funniest way possible by running straight to the Mexican fans and telling them to shut the hell up, which turns out they did not appreciate by evidence of how much beer they threw on him. This is where I can tell you that I went to Mexico when I went back to Mexico. I was born there, Mexico City. I did a trip around Mexico, and that'll remind me of another story that I'll tell at the end of the video. But when we went there, we went to go see a Mexico versus, I believe it was Trinidad and Tobago. I think it was a friendly. I don't think it was a qualifier for anything. It was just a friendly, but it was at Estadio Azteca, which is, like the big stadium in the capital of Mexico that gets really packed and it's really loud and, whatever. I believe Mexico either drew or won the game, but the Mexican fans were so angry at the way Mexico played against a team that they're way more talented than, that at the end of the game, they started throwing shit on the field. They were throwing shit on the field, and they weren't throwing it at the Trinidadian players. I believe you said Trinidadian? They were throwing it at the Mexican players. They were mad at the Mexican players. They were trying to hit the Mexican players with bottles. Like, yo, you guys fucking suck. They get very emotional, those fans. I think that's the way. It's funny, if you see sports around, just soccer. If you see soccer around the country, or around the globe, you see in Europe and so many places, they get so invested into it, right? Like the chants, the songs, the music, it's a different experience than the one you get in America. Probably the closest thing in America is I would say probably college football, in the right places, the right atmospheres, probably in the South and stuff like that. And I guess in the Midwest, certain places too, like Michigan and Columbus, Ohio, and that you get those kind of crazy rivalries, where you really feel quite something similar to what it's like to go to Europe and watch a really high level competition between two rivals, a derby, if you will. There's no way there's anything but even that, college football is probably not even, it's close because in college football, people develop attachments to their college because oh, my whole family went there and we've been rooting for that school for 10 decades. I was gonna say 10 decades, but 5 decades or whatever, right? And you get that in football and soccer, that your family grew up a part of the club, because it's actually a club that you're actually involved with, and it's just a different thing, I guess. It's just a different level of attachment. And it's, of course, we're not going to have that in U.S. soccer, right? Where we don't go insane and start throwing shit at our own players because this the domestic league that all our guys come from has only existed for 25 years, 20 something years. How old is MLS? It's less than 30. I know that. 27 years, yeah. So I'm actually older. I just turned 28 last month, so I'm actually older than MLS, right? And I know Gio Reyna, I don't think he played in MLS or even went to a U.S. academy, but Christian Pulisic, I believe, did. A lot of these guys, even the ones that never played in MLS, still were part of the academies where they were discovered and ended up in Germany or wherever across Europe that they ended up playing. So it's this is a super young thing compared to all these other countries. So of course their fans are much more connected than we are, right? And not that we don't have fun, but it's different when something's been ingrained in you and passed down to you, as opposed to when you develop the passion yourself, right? It's just a different connection to it. But that's not to excuse, by the way. Obviously, stop fucking throwing shit on the field. It sucks. Gio Reyna, who's the person pictured right here, ends up getting hit by one. Although if I'm being honest with you, I kind of think he was like exaggerating how much he got hurt, not because like he wanted to make anyone look bad, just because they were up 3-2 at the moment. So him being able to lay on the field was actually like really good, like gamesmanship, right? He just wasted a bunch of time because he got hit with something. Uh, but yeah, obviously that shit's awful. Like it's not good that they're throwing shit at them. And then you also have they don't show it in this highlight package, but uh, Mexico for a long time when the opposing goalkeeper takes the goal kick, they do the p word, what do you call it, slur, right? Which is a word in Spanish that's it is a slur, and it's essentially calling someone like a male prostitute, but it's homophobic. Like that's the intention of it, right? You're saying like you're I don't have to explain how that's homophobic. You get that. You all are smart people. Uh, but it's like it's shitty, right? Like what CONCACAF has started doing is like, hey, if we hear that chant, I forget. There's like three phases. Like one is like we pause the game and we make an announcement, and then we make if it happens again, we pause the game for 10 minutes, and we're like, hey, if you do this again, on the third one, we're just gonna cancel the game or suspend the game, come back tomorrow and finish it in an empty stadium, because you guys can't be trusted, to not be homophobic. And like again, that's obviously really shitty, right? I'm not like defending it. It's not okay. It's not like there's no reason to like be alienating people like that have nothing to do with this game, or even if they do. Either way, it's a shitty behavior, right? Like it would have been cool if CONCACAF would have done something about this a long time ago, but at least they're starting now, right? Better late than never, even if it would have been better a long time ago. Uh, I just think that's worth pointing out, right? I don't want to just be like, oh, because I'm Mexican, that like nothing was wrong, right? Everything was great. No, like a lot of that behavior was shitty, but like that's it's part of the sport, right? The other thing is like if CONCACAF and the USA were like really concerned about it, uh, they could like limit the entries of fans. I guess because it is an international tournament, it wasn't actually a home game. It doesn't work, but like when they have home games in the future, right? And like in World Cup qualifying, they could actually make it limit like the ability of opposing fans to come in, so you don't see that stuff, right? But I guess that doesn't even solve the problem, because then you just go to Mexico and the same thing happens, right? So it's just CONCACAF really has to figure out a way to limit that behavior, because it's just shitty, right? It's shitty, and it doesn't need to be a part of the sport. It doesn't make the sport enjoyable to have the opposing fans chant something shitty, right? I don't know what percentage of the fans do it. I'm assuming it's like one of those things where like in a stadium of, I don't know how many people fit in the stadium, but I'm gonna say somewhere from 60 to 80,000. That if like 1,000 people are doing it, it's gonna sound like the entire stadium is doing it if you do it loud enough. But still, it's bad. It sucks. I don't want to paint all Mexican fans with that, but it sucks. All right. Uh, this game kept going. We had this great moment where they end up giving this penalty. Ethan Horvat has to go up against longtime Mexican veteran Andres Guardado and makes the amazing save. This is really cool where they have to play out for a couple seconds. Do they show it? I guess they don't show the final moment where like they all jump on Ethan Horvath as soon as the ball goes out of play and like, yeah, dude, you're the best, you're king, whatever. The funniest part is Ethan Horvath's accent. I don't know if you've seen his accent. He has a very funny accent for an American dude that grew up in the U.S., but I guess moved to Europe when he was like 18 or 19 or something. So he speaks with an extremely, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is a normal American kid, the way he speaks, which is just, it's funny. Nothing more to comment on. There's nothing wrong with that. We have experience with that in the U.S. with Brad Friedel, who was a keeper who went to, like, how old was he when he went to Europe, Super young. And now he has an incredibly funny accent. You should Google Brad Friedel accent if you have time and if you don't know what I'm talking about. When did he leave? Yeah, so he was born in 71, and he went to Brøndby in 95. So actually not that young, 25 years ago. But he stayed for literally 20 years. And between Brøndby, Galatasaray, I didn't realize he played in MLS in the middle. But then, Liverpool for 3 years. So there was a quick, like, 1 year break where he went to America. I guess that was, like, near the inception of MLS and was, like, giving it a try. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's cool that he had those experiences. But for some reason, it developed in him having an extremely funny accent, which is very funny because Clint Dempsey also went to England for a long time, and he still sounds Southern as hell. If you watch the English broadcast of the game, he still sounds Southern as hell. Whatever. It was super fun, man. This game was super exciting. It's this is like peak like what international soccer can be. Like two teams just it's literally it's you can't have like for example what happened between Manchester City and Chelsea in the Champions League final where it's like a tactical masterclass where like people blame Pep for like not playing a striker or a CD a central defensive midfielder because they ended up losing 1-0, but the reason that happened is because Chelsea are so well interconnected as a team that it's impossible to score on them. And so it's like that type of tactical like masterclass is really hard when these guys like play a couple weeks together out of the year, right? It's really hard to get that kind of connection. But this game was just super well played in terms of effort. Both teams really wanted to fucking win, and it made it super exciting. So yeah, that was fun. I'm really excited that game happened the way it did. Even if the U.S. had lost, it was super entertaining. Uh, yeah, it was fun. I don't know. I do. Okay, so the funny story I was saying before, or that I mentioned I would talk about at the end of the video. I'm gonna try to tell it as quick as I can, so this doesn't drag on. But so as I mentioned, I was born in Mexico. My family lived in Mexico for a few years. They lived like pretty much like up and down all of Central America until I was about 2, and ended up and I grew up here in Miami where I've lived the vast majority of my life. Uh, so yeah, my parents were in Mexico. My dad was working in like some media stuff. I guess his official title at the time was like as a journalist. And a thing that happened a lot in Mexico is that when the cops would pull you over, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a lot of corruption in Mexico. So, I mean, not that the police here are like, they never do anything against the rules, but it was just so commonplace there that pretty much every time you got pulled over by a cop, they would say like, "Hey, I could, arrest you or give you a really large fine, or you give me a couple bucks under the table, and we're all good." Right? This was such a commonplace thing. That my dad at one point was just so sick of it that he got pulled over and he told the cop, actually, the president told us, like, the president made a mandate. I don't know if you said decree or a mandate, that if a cop pulls you over, just tell them you're a journalist and they cannot take your money. It's against the rules. This, by the way, did not happen. The president never said such a thing. My dad was just so sick and tired of it happening that he just made that story up to tell the police officer. And the police officer responded. Let me see. I have the official quote here. And by official, I mean what my dad remembers, 26 years later, 27 years later. But he said something like, "Y cómo va a darle pan a mis hijos?" Which was essentially the cop saying, the cop was so offended by the idea that he wasn't allowed to ask for bribe money that he's like, "Yo, how am I supposed to feed my children? What are you talking about? Like, this is stupid." And he was just mad. I don't know if my dad ended up giving him the bribe or if he just went away. I think the cop's reaction is because like he ended up not asking for the money. But yeah, that's just like my experience. That's the story I always think of Mexico is like just how like cartoonish sometimes the just how corrupt things are and like the cops can do stuff like that. Even then though, at that time Mexico isn't what it was now, right? With the violence and stuff like that. Uh, to be clear, I'm not saying don't go to Mexico. Like Mexico's still beautiful. There's still a lot of really nice parts to Mexico, and I'm not just saying like go to the resort towns. Like I'm from Mexico City, which is like very far. Well, I was born there. I shouldn't say I'm from there. It's not really like fair to anybody. But yeah, it's pretty. There's a lot of beautiful culture. I mean, Mexico City is a massive, suburban or urban, landscape. The same way New York City is. The same way like every major city and every capital city in like South and Central America is. There's a lot of cool shit there, right? I don't want to like be bashing Mexico in that way. It's cool, and I would go back again in a heartbeat. But yeah, this video is dragged on long enough. Thank you for watching. Deuces.